Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Jug Show. We're going to start doing something a little bit differently today. Going to start being more face-to-face, be more open with everyone. Now you can see how good-looking I really am. All right. So, continuing off. This is going to be our last episode focusing on the X-Men. So, we're going to focus on two minis, both focusing on the pretty much more villains of the X-Men, and seeing where the Fall of Ashes could be taking us in this kind of avenue. So, we're looking at Sentinels, and we're looking at Mystique. Both of them are definitely a lot more interesting than I originally thought they were going to be. So we're going to start talking with the Sentinels, because this is the one I want to actually probably be a little bit more critical on. Sentinels is actually a little bit more interesting than I think a lot of people, including myself, actually were given the credit for when it was announced. Because it seemed like they were going to try and make Sentinels more sympathetic. I feel like it is trying to do that, but it's not exactly where the main focus of the story is going to go. Like, that's not what we really should be focusing on. The realistic part of the story is the fact they are using like forms of propaganda and pretty much getting people who are broken, down on their luck, in a way kind of believe in the military, kind of believe in the idea that these people will take care of them if they do their job, that they could be making a difference, or just this sense of purpose sometimes the military or these kind of governments can actually give people when it's more that when they don't realize they could actually be throwing their lives away. It's one of the reasons why VAs are always so backed up, veterans struggle, and they believe they're going back to the military can actually help them out. That's where the main plot line is. I think the writer is actually doing a lot, and really he's trying to help really his own argument by also not focusing like the Sentinels hunting like favorite characters, like characters everybody likes, so if they were going for Storm, it probably would definitely hurt the book, but instead, we're going after Omega Red. We've been seeing going after Sebastian Shaw in the latest issue. We had them going after Fabian Cortez, who before Krakoa, honestly, I think everyone would appreciate it. And after Krakoa, let's face it, I think we still would appreciate it. But he is trying to do better. He's in Mandrapore now. He's trying to do better, but now he's being hunted. And this is also where the real situation is actually coming up. This is where the soldiers are really starting to question the loyalty to the Sentinel program, the people they work for, and it's also where the big twist came in, because we had this Magneto show up, but we know Magneto's up in Alaska. Clearly, the writers actually really started to try and create some tension. So the writer, Alex Packnadell, he clearly knows what he's trying to do, what he's trying to say. But it's probably best that this book is actually a mini, that it doesn't last very long, because I don't think people's interest in it would be able to hold out for very long, and myself included. But the premise is a little bit more on the interesting side than I actually would have given it credit for. And I'm interested to see how it will end. The actual subject matter, like I said, does find interesting, and it is actually giving us an insight on the threats that the X-Men are facing now. And also kind of showing how violent these people can be, and how not only how they view mutants, but how they view their own assets. To the director of the Sentinel program and the warden of Greymarken, he's viewing the Sentinel, the people of the Sentinels, she doesn't even view them as human. They're just numbers to her. And in a lot of situations with military veterans, that's actually how they've been seen. Ended up being just decided to be a number. They've been injured in battle, and when they're on tours, they come back and they try to get help, or they have for mental conditions, or they trying to get help because they have injuries, they're experiencing pain, all this kind of stuff, but they struggle to get the help they need, and they sometimes end up homeless. They end up a bit of a burden on people. Sadly, they go through all these forms of pain, sadly suicide, and the government just kind of views them as a number. They don't view them as people. They just view them as soldiers. So that's one of the real sad facts, and a bit of a hint of truth of what I believe Alex Packnadell is actually trying to express here. And I really do find that actually a very necessary story, that some of the people that the X-Men are being hunted, he's trying to humanize some of the people on the other side. And I know that might not be something that's very easy to swallow for some people, but I really think Alex is trying his best shot. But it's not like he's also trying to humanize some of the worst people on that side. That warden is still a deplorable character, and the trust they've got in charge of being depicted kind of like an idiot that's trying to make his own moves, but he's being outplayed, and we can see he's being outplayed. So I really feel like Alex knows what he's doing here, and I really do commend him. When it comes to the actual book itself, I am on some level interested. It does feel like a cool book. At the end of the day, though, it's a team book, and that can always be tricky, especially when you got 5 new characters to introduce. We have the characters Lockstep, Drumfire, Sawtooth, and Voivod. Vivid. I don't know. But the point is, we don't know much about these guys. We don't know much about who they are. So the idea of introducing these new characters, and for a book that it seemed like people wouldn't be interested in, Alex really had he was really working against himself. He was going to struggle. This was not going to be a book that, because he didn't have anything. He didn't have a popular character to work with. He didn't even have a popular concept. What he mainly would be working with here is just the idea of intrigue. What are we going to see on the Sentinel side? So he had to nail it. I think he's doing a pretty okay job. I think this is actually a really interesting book, but like I said, it's probably best that it's a mini. Like, it can set up things for other books. We got characters that could probably be in other books. We got some concepts that can really work for Fall of Ashes going forward, especially as we reach a point where the writers might actually be able to, because like I said in the last video, it's even more clear now, thanks to Moreau, who's been revealing just exactly how some of the writers of the current era have reacted to the Fall of Ashes, like Jed MacKay. When reading the X-Force books, he saw that Quentin Quire was killed, and Jed MacKay was a little worried because he was already going to be using Quentin Quire, and he didn't know if they're going to be bringing back, so he was worried he had more work there. The mutant disease was originally going to be a big plot point for him, but he didn't know, not only did he not know the fact that all the mutants were going to be coming back by a resurrection, which kind of already discounts his theory with this idea, but he also didn't know that Al Ewing was going to bring Magneto back via the portal effect, the one that Stormborn through Resurrection Magneto. He had no idea that was going to happen. So he's clearly going to be scrambling for a little while. He's probably going to be trying to figure out a way to make what he's already written make sense. We can't exactly judge all the writers for the clear miscommunications and failings of the editorial group. They should have been able to figure out, they should have been able to know how their stories were going to end. They didn't have to start all the way at the beginning. This isn't the fault of the writers. They have their craft. This was I'm quite sure if any of them could tell them, they would have told them. This is a systems failure. This is somebody else expecting the writers to fix the mistake of somebody that clearly didn't do their job correctly. And I find that very unfortunate, and I'm really hoping that the writers are going to be able to pull this one together. I'm really looking forward to seeing what they can manage. So, that sense, it's an interesting book, interesting concept, facing some very sad real-life consequences. I'm looking forward to seeing how some of these characters might react at the end. Maybe some of them will continue. I don't expect Voivod, I think that's how you pronounce his name, Voivod, to make it to the end of the book. He's clearly suicidal given what he was doing with his fight as Sebastian Shaw. He was clearly empowering Shaw. He's just wanting to blow himself up. Each individual character has their own kind of purpose for being there. Lockstep clearly has a belief that he's doing the right thing. He's your classic, you join the police, you join the military, because you want to go in there and you feel like you're going to fight the bad guy. So you're kind of going in there because because you're thinking propaganda, you're thinking all these things that people hear, you feel like you're providing a public service, but he's in a scenario where it's clearly, this is just engaging in forms of bigotry. This is clearly just going to be all this kind of bad stuff that we're doing. So he's being used. He's clearly just viewed as a number. You got Drumfire, who had a massively bad experience, and she's already in pain, and so she was clearly attracted to this idea, especially because it's onslaught she keeps seeing on herself. So she's attracted to the idea of fighting mutants. She's attracted to the idea of fighting mutants. she's violent, she's angry, she's in pain. So and instead of getting the help she needs, she's being picked up by people that would gladly use the type of things that she's experiencing for their own benefits. And that's a very sad fact that a lot of corporations, a lot of everything does this type of stuff. And then you got Sawtooth. I don't really have much of a beat of Sawtooth right now. She's just the big gun. She's got the big armor. And then Voivod, he's the suicide dude. So that's sense. I don't think these guys are going to be able to stick around in the books in the Fall of Ashes era. Moving on. We're looking at Mystique here. This book is definitely very interesting. I'm already enjoying it. I enjoyed it in the first issue. I've enjoyed the second issue. I'm looking forward to the third issue. What really makes it good is it really does feel like a spy novel. We don't even know the end goal here. We know the characters. We know who's hunting who. But that's pretty much all we know. What I'm really liking about it is the fact that Declan Shalvey is also working off Ryan North's plot lines of the Shield that he's set up both in Secret Invasion and his Fantastic Four. The reason why I'm actually really excited for this version of Shield is because they're no longer a global military. They're so less powerful than they used to be. They're now just a couple of office folks, proper spies, and a couple of people that are in SWAT gear. They don't have the massive resources they had. So it's really getting writers to be a little bit more creative. These characters have to be a bit smarter. And they are more of a global intelligence agency now, which is a lot more fitting than being the global military type of group. And I really feel like that can open up a lot of avenues and can even increase and spread to other stories. I'm hoping maybe we can see a little bit more of it in the Fantastic Four, see what Ryan North has planned, and maybe bring it into the new Captain America comic coming out, focusing on Sam Wilson. Nick Fury in that one will be interesting. Where else could it show up in the current comics? Thor? Nah, doubt that would happen. Now that I'm saying it, I feel like it's probably is going to happen. Let's see what Al Ewing's got cooking. So the idea of the Shield. So the only problem with the way Ryan North's been doing is that he can't focus on it. That's not on him. He's got to focus on the Fantastic Four. He can't have Shield and everything. I think it would be cool if we announced that he's working on a Shield book. Shield's probably going to show up in his One World Under Doom book. Because, Doom becomes like king of the world. You really think Shield's not going to be involved? So that's probably going to happen. And what he's doing with it is great. He really is the one that's setting it up as an intelligence agency. Declan is expanding it. He's showing a bit of the workings. He's showing how Nick Fury interacts with it. And he's showing the things that Maria's had to do. And I'm really invested in just this specific aspect. And then you got what's Destiny doing. This is a little bit funny because I feel like it's a bit of a trope for spy stories. Especially if you look at, what's that Arnold Schwarzenegger movie? I think it was it wasn't Deep Impact. Was it Deep Impact? No. Oh, I'm drawing a blank. The one where you had excuse me for 5 seconds. It is not Deep Impact. What the hell was that movie? Total Recall. Even his wife was fake. I feel like it's a bit of a spy thing. You don't ever trust the wife. We have no idea exactly what Destiny's playing at here. And when it comes to a spy story, you're not going to get a better couple than Mystique and Destiny, the shapeshifter and the one that can see the future. So I feel like Mystique is definitely doing something under Destiny's request. I would say orders, but I don't feel like Mystique would ever view him as order. So I'm very curious about So I don't think Mystique is the one with the plan here. It's clearly Destiny. Mystique is definitely doing something to try and make sure that whatever Destiny's seen either does or doesn't come to fruition. So that's one of the reasons I was certain we didn't have to believe that that Destiny was dead after the total cliffhanger of that first issue. That starts as a spy novel. Don't believe anything you read in a spy novel until you get to the very end. Even then, remain skeptical. This one is the one unfortunately is a mini. I feel like it being a mini is going to help it in the long run, but I am enjoying it so much that you don't want it to end. So I'm very curious about where this is going to go. I'm very curious. I'm really also enjoying the fact this also Mystique kind of going back on her past, like the scene with Avalanche and how she's talking with Pyro, how close they were, doing all these things, like, and Avalanche kind of making her face what he's always thought of her, and all these type of things. I was really excited about the whole thing with S.H.I.E.L.D., that it's really focusing on the spy stuff. I'm really looking forward to more of it. I'm really hoping that other books start bringing it up. Even the idea of Ryan North and Declan Shalvey working together, it could actually be really interesting because, like Sue Storm, she's actually worked for Nick Fury Jr. The idea of him bringing her in, you got the shapeshifter woman against the invisible. You can't tell me that idea wouldn't excite you. So, we're already seeing Mystique is making her moves. She's taken out characters that have had history with mutants before. She's taken out what could possibly be potential threats to mutant kind. Because despite the fact that Mystique is a villain, both Mystique and Destiny could be classified as villains, they definitely have the best interests of mutants at heart. They sometimes more or less go about it the more way, they go in a more cynical way. They really just don't like humans, so they're going to take the more violent option any opportunity they can. So that's where things are probably going to get dangerous. This is what Maria and Nick Fury are actually very worried about. So I have absolutely zero idea what it possibly could be. I feel like every issue is going to be a little bit different. We're going to have new targets. We're going to have... I'm not sure if there is a big plan. I think there is just going to be this sense that Destiny knows that something bad's happening, and all these characters were definitely included. That Mystique is taken out, and there's a method to the madness that Destiny, that Destique is creating here. We're gonna use the ship name because they're working together. They might as well just be one person. They're a lovely couple. Ish. They're a violently lovely couple. So the Destique couple are clearly making moves, and it's probably based not on a singular event, but they're trying to get the best possible outcome for the future to come. We don't exactly have much to go on with these particular books, so there isn't exactly much to review. But out of the two of them, Mystique is definitely one to pick up. It's definitely one to keep, definitely one to watch, and it's definitely one of the high points of the From the Ashes. One of the reasons I feel like it's definitely have a more higher point is because it's less connected. There was no way that Mystique and Destiny were going to stay on Krakoa because they knew that more mutants were going to be coming here. They can't go and kick up their heels with a martini and just enjoy their days. They're going to feel like they had to stay here, especially if Nightcrawler and Rogue are going to be here. So they definitely have a purpose. They're definitely going to be showing up in other books. This is going to be their starting. So they're not as connected as Krakoa. This is something that's benefiting them, and it's definitely benefiting this book. We're just jumping straight back in with how Mystique usually operates, and now she's got Destiny with her. So that's why I think this book is definitely one of the ones that benefits most. It's not as connected to Krakoa. We know that Krakoa was gone. Everyone knew that Krakoa was going to be gone. Everyone knew they were going to be coming back. But Declan didn't know I was going to be gone, but that wasn't the central base of his story. He's not basing everything of how Krakoa ended. He's got a lot more freedom. He doesn't have to worry about, is this character alive? Is this character alive? Even when they announced that Fall of Ash was starting, all this was happening, it's probably more common knowledge that Mystique and Destiny were going to survive it. So he has so much more to work with than so many of the other writers. So he didn't have to worry, and it's probably one of the reasons why one of his book is probably more of a higher point. So Mystique is definitely a good one to pick up. Even if it is a mini, even if it's going to last 5 issues, it could be a very good starting point. We don't know where Declan Shalvey is going to go after this. He could keep writing Mystique. He could have another spin-off. Mystique could go into another story somewhere. We don't know where Mystique's going to end up next. This is one of the parts that actually makes From the Ashes a more exciting era. Because Declan isn't just focusing on this singular character. He's focusing on so much more. He's expanding the spy world. He's giving S.H.I.E.L.D. more breathing room. He's opening it up a lot more. He's locating other mutants, ones that probably didn't have such a good time. That's the only question that would be, does would be struggling with the idea of, why didn't this mutant go with Krakoa? Why didn't this mutant? Declan didn't know how it was going to end, so he just had to collect his mutants and put them in these situations. But given the fact that Krakoa existence isn't that big of a point of his story, he probably has a lot more. He has a lot more freedom to work with. He's allowed to use Avalanche. He's allowed to use this mutant, this mutant, this mutant. And even mutants aren't even the biggest point. We're not going to see Mystique interacting with all these different kinds of mutants. He's allowed to do what he has more freedom. Declan has more freedom to work with. He's even his own artist. I've always loved it when a writer does that, but somehow it usually ends up being an amazing book. And I'm really hoping to see more from Mystique. I'm very excited to see the issue up to issue 3, 4, and 5. I really hope other writers are going to continue what Declan Shalvey and Ryan North cooking up with S.H.I.E.L.D. I am very hoping that a writer doesn't just get their hands on it and goes back to creating a global military. I feel like that would be a massive wasted opportunity, a massive insult to what they're building here, and a massive insult to the characters. This is actually what Maria Hill and Nick Fury were always meant to be. They're spies. They've always been spies. Mystique is an appropriate character for them to be an opponent of, because she's a spy. She's a spy. She's a soldier. Nah, she's not a soldier. She is a spy. She's the one that shapeshifts. Doing this with certain characters is definitely very, very interesting. It was interesting when we had Nick Fury taking on the Black Cat. She's not a spy, but she's definitely a world-class thief. I really hope that this book could give us another writer an idea of bringing in characters that are very based off stealth, very based off the ideas of sneaking around, maybe even already have connection with spy worlds, and we can start increasing what S.H.I.E.L.D. is from there. Which I believe is just going to be more of the intelligence agency. In a way, like back in Dan Slott's She-Hulk, he did something like that was that comic books kind of acted like a credible historical catalog of superheroes. That's something I feel like that's what's going to happen with S.H.I.E.L.D. They're going to be keeping an eye on superheroes, not like they did before, like registering if they're they are going to be registering their threats, but they're not going to be policing them. They're not going to be the military that they just drop things off at. They're going to act as the kind of like as heroes' eyes and ears. They're going to try and figure these things about heroes. They might drop a hint or two to particular teams. If they feel like Spider-Man's good for something, they might hint to Spider-Man to go get that threat. Same thing with the Fantastic Four. That's exactly what Maria Hill said here. So it wouldn't surprise me if Nick Fury and Maria Hill, by the end of the series, brings in another superhero to help bring down Mystique. That's where I think this is going to go. I think Mystique and Destiny are going to manage to hightail it out and evade Nick Fury and Maria, and they're going to have to start upping the game. And we're going to get S.H.I.E.L.D. upping the spy game. And we're going to get more stories out of that. So I really think that Declan Shalvey's stuff is going to be a turning point, not just in Mystique, but in S.H.I.E.L.D. And I'm really hoping we're going to see some really good payoff, because if it's an amazing book, and I'm really hoping for a good end. So let's go and wrap it up here. Mystique and Sentinels. Both a little bizarre. I didn't see either of these two concepts coming. When I first read Mystique, I was thinking, okay, cool. Let's give this a look, shall we? I gave it a look. It's a great book. Sentinels was coming out. I honestly was curious, and I feel like that curiosity paid off. I'm not expecting this to go ahead and change everything about the Fall of Ashes, but it is an interesting book with a pretty good premise. I'm not going to start saying premise over everything, but the point is, these are two interesting books. I wouldn't say they're slept on. The criticisms I've seen of Sentinels is mainly just based off the ideas that now that we're off Koa, writing a book about the villains instead of focusing on character A, character B, character C, I feel like that one is a bit unfair. And if they were critiquing the actual book, I'd probably take these people more seriously. But I do understand where they're coming from. Like I said, I don't think the characters in Sentinels are going to have staying power. What's happening in Mystique, I feel like a writer can build off that. And I'm really looking forward to seeing where that goes. Okay, guys, wrapping it up. I hope you enjoyed my very first video with my good-looking face, my good-looking beard, and my favorite hat. Hope you have a great day. Hope you have a great holidays. Hope to see you again in the year. Bye.